Incoming mail.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's market color session. My name is Abigail, and I'll be taking the first half of today's analysis, which will be covering commodity currencies. Shortly after which, my colleague is going to come do his own analysis on indices. I see a couple of us online. Good morning, Sua, Ayuba, Anna. Also, our YouTube community. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, so let us see what the market has in store for us today. As usual, for those of us who most likely do not have these indicators on our charts, I recommend that you just take notes of the price point we're looking at and then take advantage of the analysis. So from last week's analysis, we stated looking for sell opportunities on AUD USD. If you remember, we saw that sunshine had been printed and we're looking at this sell happening. Look at how beautifully this sold. Let's look at NZD USD as well. Same thing, we had a new sunshine. We expected temporal buys and a sell resumption to happen. But let's start from the top for the sake of those of us who were not here last week. I'm just going to go ahead and delete everything on the charts and start afresh. So what are we looking at today? The predominant move of AUD/USD on the H4 time frame is to the upside. Sunshine printed, we've seen this retracement happen. This sell was a temporal sell-off that could become a continuous sell, provided it takes out these zones. If it eventually comes and trades below this level and even trades all the way down here, then it would be safe to say AUD/USD is about to start forming a new trend. But from what we're seeing, price has sold into what we expected. We wanted this to happen so we could start looking for buy opportunities if it meets our criteria. Now, price is here, new sunshine has been printed. We're now expecting these buys to occur. We're expecting the buys to occur. I'm going to go ahead and mark out more points of interest on the H1 time frame. You can see this markup from last week where we said we're looking at sales happening, right? Still there. So right now, I'm saying that price has given us the sell we expected. However, I want to see two things happen. If AUD/USD buys all the way above 0.66162, to be safe to say that AUD/USD has retraced enough for the buy to resume. However, if price does not come to trade above and take out this zone here, then we're looking at more sell pressures of AUD/USD all the way into 0.65375. Does that make sense? Please confirm if what I just said is clear to you. Confirm if what I just said is clear to you. So these are the 2 points of interest on the H1 that I'm watching out for. On M5, I'm going to go ahead and mark out more points of interest, which include yesterday's high and low, day before yesterday's high and low. Again, I'm touching on last week because I want you to see how these indicators play out. So you take it even more seriously. I know some of us usually don't want to pay too much attention to indicators, but look at this. This was a zone we marked out from last week, yes or yes? From that zone all the way to how far AUD/USD sold. Is this not 83 pips we're looking at on this asset class? Imagine you even caught the sell from this other zone here, because this was also a point of interest that price started to sell off from. Look at that. Okay, but price is not returning to this because this was a level we marked out from yesterday. So this is where price started to sell off from, and it gave us over 80 pips. Over 80 pips. So I'm going to do the same thing I did last week on today's chart. Mark out yesterday's high, and day before yesterday's high, yesterday's low, and day before yesterday's low. Mark all of that into today's price movement. This will now serve as my support or resistance zones that I want to see what price will do around these levels. So this is now day before yesterday's high. Am I marking that out correctly? Okay, I'm going to need to adjust that. I'm going to need to adjust that. Let's start from yesterday. Yesterday's high marked out. Day before yesterday's low marked out. So we need to now mark out day before yesterday's high and yesterday's low. So price even looks to be in some sort of choppiness on the M5 time frame. It's in some sort of choppiness. So now that price is here, price has not returned. It is now around a zone that has served as multiple resistance that price has been rejected from. So what do I want to see now? If price will come and trade above all of these and break through these levels on M5, then we're seeing a buy opportunity of AUD USD from here to here. If price now buys into this zone and breaks through these other points of interest, then it is safe to say the buy resumption of AUD USD has fully resumed. However, if this resistance level holds, then we're going to see AUD USD sell continuation into what zone? Because price does not just move randomly now into this level. So again, price breakthrough, what could have served as resistance to keep pushing AUD USD down, then we're going to be seeing more sell-offs into our next support level on the H1. However, if price violates these zones to the upside, it's going to buy into 0.66162. And if it's able to break through this level, we're seeing more buy resumptions of this asset class. Then let's look at NZUSD. NZUSD on the H1, I'm just going to zoom out so we see the overall move. So major structure is to the upside, minor structure has been giving us moves to the downside. Zooming in, new sunshine has been printed. We expected this buy to occur, but price is now starting to sell without trading into our preferred level so that we can begin to sell high. So delete this from last week, delete all of that. So what am I now thinking would happen on this asset class? I'm going to go ahead and mark out my points of interest first. So for NZUSD, I would prefer for this to buy more. I want to see more buy opportunities of NZUSD into 0.59037 before I start to look for sell opportunities following the minor structure, right? Because I don't want to be selling from when price has already gone so far. So retrace, come back into these two zones and give me confirmation, and I'll start looking for sell opportunities. So for now, I want to see NZUSD give us temporal buys. On M5, mark out what again? Yesterday's high, low. So yesterday's high happens to be in confluence with our indicator, this red now, which is our indicator. So mark out that, mark out day before, sorry, yesterday's low. Then mark out day before yesterday's high right here, and day before yesterday's low. My new words, support and resistance zones. So same thing we spoke on AUD/USD. I want to see you do the same. If you break above this zone, we're looking at buys into this level. If price is able to click through these zones, then NZUSD may continue to buy. However, if this serves as resistance, the opposite is expected. USD CAD, finally, before we move into indices. Major structure, what is this doing? So our indicator, this is our trend, is predominantly to the downside. Same thing, major structure is to the downside, minor structure gradually breaking through. But now zooming in, you see that a new indicator, sunshine indicator, has been printed, basically saying that people who were buying this move are taking profit. So we should expect what? Temporal retracement or eventual reversals. So looking at this now, come to H1. I'm going to just adjust this into our point of interest for today. Drag this all the way down here. This now becomes my point of interest, where I'm saying I'm looking at temporal sales of this asset class. Where is it going to sell into to find possible support? Here and here, 1.38093 or 1.37894. Price could retrace into the zones, find support before it continues to buy. However, if price breaks through and violate these zones, then we'll be seeing the major structure continued to the downside. Is that clear? For M5 now, same thing. Mark out my support and resistance levels that come in the form of yesterday's high and low, day before yesterday's high and low. Price has broken through yesterday's high to the upside. I want to see you sell. Give me temporal sales. If you're able to break through this, then I know that the next zone where USD CAD may trade into will be somewhere. Yeah, but we have more zones on the day before yesterday's levels. So let's go ahead and mark them out. So day before yesterday's high is in confluence with the key zone from the H1 time frame. Perfect. So this is now what I am watching out for in the different asset classes. These are my levels. Let's keep watching to see what price does. If you have any questions, yes, of course, Anna, also put that into perspective, but following what indicators are showing us, that's what we're going to be looking out for. Okay. Hi, Mr. Desochi. Good morning. Mr. Akintoye, good morning. These are new faces. Mr. Solomon, good morning, sir. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions and would of today's analysis, we should be covering indices and touch a little on fundamentals. Let's also quickly look at the XY. Let's see what the XY is doing. So major structure of the XY is to the downside, like Anna pointed out, to the downside. But look at this, sunshine has been printed. So people who were doing all of this move from here, they sold all the way here, sunshine printed, we started seeing buys as expected. New sunshine was printed. What do we do when we see new sunshines? Expect the temporal retracement. Retracement into what zone? Let's look at H1. Now, I'll go back to H4. This is what we saw. So we expected this temporal sale to happen, and it happened. On the H1 now, it sold into what would have marked out as a point of interest. Am I right, Anna? This would have been a POI for price to begin to move from. So I'm going to mark this out, and also mark this out. These are our three major POIs. We mark out the three major indicators on the H1 time frame. So now that I'm seeing this, price is currently approaching. You see where price is reacting from. Look at that. You're seeing this sale that happened occurred from what could have served as a point of interest, right? Okay. Now, if price is able to break through this level, we'll see the XY give us more buys into what level? Into this zone before we see the overall sell resumed. Going down to M5 to mark out the same thing we always mark out. It's the same exact way you analyze those different asset classes that you can also do the dollar index, except we don't trade the XY, right? So I'm going to mark this out as well. So you can also now have that in mind, put that into perspective as you watch out for trade opportunities. Okay. So, and Anna, you want to watch out for these levels. If price, remember they serve as support or resistance or past support acting as current resistance like we have here. If price breaks through this level, we'll see more DXY buys into this one. If price breaks through what could have served as the support or resistance, then we'll be looking at price traded into these levels. However, if these levels hold, and you know what we mean by hold, by seeing confirmations, if we see them holding to the downside, then to be safe to say the XY will be giving us more downward movements. However, if they get validated to the upside, then we could be seeing more temporal buy opportunities of this asset class. Is that clear? Okay, so without taking too much more of our time, so we can touch on indices. Thank you so much for giving me your attention. Let us move into our analysis on DXY. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be back very, very shortly. Cheers and God bless.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second part of this market color. How are we doing this morning? Hope we are good. Hope we are fine. All right, quickly, we'll be looking at the US market, in the US30, NAS100, also S&P 500 opportunities in those markets and how we can take advantage of them. All right, I'll be sharing my screen in the next 2 minutes, just to patient. All right, so let's look at this. Let's start with US30. On the daily time frame, you can see here that US30 is what? Extremely bullish to the upside. Bullish, and this is Thursday. The market has mitigated all areas that can be mitigated on the daily time frame, right? Especially if you're looking at long-term trades. For daily trades, let's look at the forward trades. Also almost the same thing on the 4-hour time frame. By mitigation, I mean that order blocks, fair value gaps, and every other thing that looks quite significant has been tested already, right? I remember we have some levels marked out last week. I don't know if price actually got to those levels. The 5-minute time frame, let me see. Some levels we marked out. We're expecting price to tap into them. But I don't really think price came all the way to those levels last week. Okay, those are 1-minute time frame trades that we looked at. Yes, markup has been deleted. Okay, price didn't get them. Okay, these are levels we expected price would get to last week. Tap into it and continue to direction. But even I myself, I wasn't expecting much of that because there's really no area for price to bounce from in terms of order block, fair value gaps, inverted order block, or even mitigation blocks. Price already filled everything, especially with the FOMC news came out, and then all of this was pretty much mitigated. For this week, what are we going to be looking at for today? Right, this is looking like a clear box pattern, sweep of this liquidity, break to the upside, and then expecting price to test this other block. But then price already have tested this other block. By the time you look at it, it has mitigated this other block. However, let's move to the lower time frame if we see anything significant. Truly speaking, also these levels, all of these levels have been mitigated, right? So for US30, it becomes very tricky now because what else would price react from when eventually price gets to this zone? Nothing, right? Even this order block, if you're using week to week, this order block has been tested. However, if you're using body to body, we can assume or anticipate a bounce off from this other block. But I like to use fresh zone, right? Week to week, body to body, nothing has been tested before, right? Because with those kind of zones, we will expect quick bounce off. Price will just weak into it and then continue movement to the upside. But this morning, what has happened already. What can we do, right, to take opportunity in this market? This morning, I'll still be looking at this, but I'll look for 1-minute break of structure. I'll still be looking at this. The price comes here, bounces off to the upside, but then I'll be looking for 1-minute break of structure because with that, I don't expect price to take me out easily, right? So I'll be looking for a 1-minute break of structure. And once we have that, I can now enter tight stop loss, massive risk to reward. So that'll be all on US30 this morning that I'm looking at. Let's look quickly at S&P 500 on the daily time frame. Almost the same thing. Almost the same thing on the daily time frame. Guys, look at what we had last week. This is Thursday, right? This is Friday. As at Thursday, we had this level marked out. This entire level here. Because as at Thursday, it was still a fresh what? A fresh level that has not been mitigated. Fresh order block created on the higher time frame that has not been mitigated, right? This is Thursday. And then Friday came. Thursday, I was saying that price is going to tap into this zone, definitely. How deep will it be the reaction? We can't say for sure. But that price will not come back and react to this, impossible, especially on the daily time frame, right? Because all areas of significance have been mitigated. Look at this candle mitigated this order block, mitigated this fair value gap. All of this other block has been mitigated. Everything here has been mitigated on the daily time frame. In fact, if you would only sit with the daily time frame to trade, of course, the risk reward might not be encouraging, but then the what's it called now? The confidence, right, and the reliability of that trade setup, you can be guaranteed you have up to 90%, right? Because all of these things we marked out here, look at how it played out, especially on the daily time frame. Tight, what's it called now? Wide SL, right? Stop loss. But then you can almost be sure that the market is going to move in your direction. All right, that being said, price has tapped into this. Let's look at the 4-hour time frame. Let's look at the 4-hour time frame. Also, all levels here has been mitigated. The only level here, even this has been mitigated in a way. Price came back, dug into this week to week. It's no longer a fresh level the way I want it. Because fresh levels are levels that have not been tested at all before. All right, so let's look at 2 hours. Let's look at 1 hour. Is there anything you can see there? Okay. Now we have two levels that are overlapping together, which is this and this down here. Honestly speaking, I want to take trades from here. However, I will also give this a try. Why? I don't want to miss out on this trade. So sometimes price might just tap into this and then continue its original direction. However, the original place for us to see trades, to even take trade, is this zone, especially if we don't see something as valid as this. Here's my part two. When we see something as valid as this, probably price comes, does something like this, and now come back to this zone. Best believe we are taking it to the moon, right? Price does something like this, because these guys are just going to serve as inducement, and then what will happen is we'll see a takeoff from this zone to the upside, continuing to the upside. But that has not happened yet, so we cannot anticipate, we cannot just assume, right? So when we expect price to give us more price action, we want to see more price action in this zone, see exactly how it happened. Another thing we could see here is price just tapping into this and then tap into this, a little bit of reaction, and then boom, come back into this zone for it to now continue, right? And it can now, even this can send it downwards, or you can do a bit and then continue, right? So there are many reactions that could happen here. And one of the things we have to be careful of is that E6, September already, right? From seasonality to September ending into October tends to be a period where we want to see the market preparing for a rally, right? To be selling, and into October, we now begin to see rallies to the upside, significant rally. So I don't want to be caught off guard looking for sales where the market is now going to start buying to the upside. So I'll be watching this market by before even 1:30, 2 o'clock or end of today. We would have seen what price action looks like on S&P 500 and also on US100, because they have almost the same price action since they are highly correlated. So this is what I'll be looking at for today. These are things that could happen. You don't want to miss out on any trade. But once price comes here and you see a change of structure on 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or even 1 minute, although very aggressive, you can buy and then continue. But you want to be patient to see how this market, and of course, let us be patient. Now you cannot wait for price to come all the way here because these are fresh zones that price haven't tested before. Price have mitigated this has mitigated this has mitigated everything. So we have only this zone left, and then eventually price is going to do some drama here. I know that one, there will be a lot of drama before we now get here, and then boom, typically to the upside, right? So this is what I'll be looking out for. Let's quickly look at the last one before we call it a wrap for today. On the daily time frame, also this. Okay, beautiful. Look at this. What we have on S&P 500, US100 did not test this zone, meaning this zone is a very strong zone, right? This zone is a very strong zone because look at this. All the entire zone you have been mitigated. Even this guy has been mitigated by this. This is the only other block that's not mitigated on the daily time frame. What happens then on the 4-hour time frame? On the 4-hour time frame, also we have this that's not been mitigated. It's a fresh zone. Price didn't test it. However, price tested this one with this candle. So there are two areas I'll be watching out for quickly. This zone and this zone. Let me go on the 1-hour time frame. We're going to see. All right. So price could as well come back into this to push the market to the upside. However, from this other zone, we should also expect a form of reaction. But then I wouldn't want to take trades now, especially if the only confirmation I'm seeing is order block. I want to see a form of inducement in this market, right? A form of price doing this. See price a bit, didn't test it, come back, broke structure, now comes back again to now eventually, something like this will give more confidence because number one, this price the market is overbought, structurally speaking, right? We've extended long enough, so we should expect a form of retracement. That's number one. Number two, seasonalities chart or seasonality tool for US30. In fact, for the equities market is generally bullish. So we cannot shy away from that. So, but if we are going to follow seasonality too, then we have to have a form of inducement in this market. If, for example, price breaks structure and gives us a form of inducement or internal liquidity, then we could expect that once price breaks structure to the upside, comes back into this zone, which is another block on the higher time frame, we can now take trades and we can hold to say, okay, this trade will make a lot of sense. I hope I'm making sense to you all. All right, so this is what I have this morning. For me, I'll be waiting for price to give me a form of inducement here. Then I would now want to take trades with price sweeping that inducement, turning it into a form of liquidity, and then we ride it again to the upside. If I don't see that here, I want to see that here, right? Or price giving me a form of structure. There has to be something significant, right? For me to pull that trigger for a buy from this zone. All right, that's pretty much it this morning. It's a good time to ask a question. If you have any question, let's just ask a question in the chat box so that we can wrap this session up this morning. And if there's no question, let me know if it's clear. All right. If there's no question, let me know if it's clear so that we'll meet again by 2 p.m. for the New York analysis. Just drop a comment in the chat box. Ade Soji, Anna, Ayodele, Ayuba, Ezekiel. Is it clear? Is it clear? Any gray area you want us to touch on? Okay, thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much for joining. We'll meet again by 2 p.m. this afternoon for the New York session. I'm Demola Glover, and I wish you a profitable day ahead. Cheers and God bless.